Literally 2 hours of footage of me yapping about my favorite books got messed up somehow. All the text ended up being in 2x speed. So in an attempt to actually go through with this bookshelf tour slash book haul, I'm gonna be recording, and it is currently 11:51 p.m. So this is Nauru. He is gonna be my special guest for today. In the first row of my bookshelf is my ACOTAR series. Yeah, A Court of Thorns and Roses. So I actually ended up buying A Court of Thorns and Roses on a whim sometime during my freshman year of college, just because I wanted to start reading again. Book talk was at its most powerful height, and I decided to try and start reading again as a hobby. During one of my many Amazon purchases that I do on a whim, I ended up putting this in my cart and purchasing. I was very hesitant to read A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I almost DNF'd it during the first few chapters because it was so boring, but then it got good, as Sarah J. Maas does when she releases the first book. The first book is literally just world building, and so this is what ACOTAR was. It was world building, but I fell in love with it. So with ACOTAR, actually, I tabbed it. However, I ended up not following the tabs. I ended up tabbing whatever I thought was very interesting, or I just ended up going with whatever my heart desired. But this is what the tabs look like. Ooh. And I actually started A Court of Thorns and Roses April 10th, 2023, 6:25 a.m. And then I finished it April 12th at 10:20 p.m. After, I want to say, chapter 5. That's when it started really piquing my interest. It pulled me back to romantasy, adventure, and this is actually the fairy. This is the very first book I ever tried, at least when it comes to like fairy romance. And then my favorite book of ACOTAR, dare I say it is in the top 5 favorite books of mine of all time, is book number 2, A Court of Mist and Fury. A Court of Mist and Fury was a spiritual awakening for me. The way I experienced A Court of Mist and Fury, I will never ever experience with any other book, because as you can tell, I am a very huge swiftie. And during the peak of the Eras tour, at least when she was doing the North American tours, was the glitchy live streams on TikTok. I was one of those people who every Friday and Saturday, Sunday night, I would wait for the Eras tour shows, and I would try to find one of the glitchy live streams just so that I could tune in and have fun. I went to Las Vegas night 1 on March 23. It was absolutely life-changing, and the way I experienced ACOMAF was the way I experienced the Eras tour. I experienced them together. I actually ended up reading ACOMAF while I was watching one of the live streams, and it was just that sort of magical moment where one of the scenes I was reading went directly with the song Taylor was singing, or which set she was performing. So in this case, when I first started reading ACOMAF, Taylor was actually performing Tolerate It from the Evermore set list. Rest in peace, Evermore. At least Tolerate It. Oh, the biggest loss of my life. So Taylor sang Tolerate It while I was reading the first few chapters, and when I tell you my mind was completely blown, I had goosebumps all over my arm because of how perfect the scenery was. I even wrote it down on sticky notes. For me, I feel like this is the book that was tabbed the most out of all of the ACOTAR books I've read. On chapter 2, you can literally see these 2 sticky notes. Now playing Tolerate It by Taylor Swift. You're so much older and wiser, and I wait by the door like I'm just a kid. Use my best colors for your portrait. Lay the table with fancy shit and watch you tolerate it. I know my love should be celebrated, but you tolerate it. Wow. And I end up writing down the bridge of Tolerate It too, because it's just that good. While you were out building other worlds, where was I? Where's that man who threw blankets over my barbed wire? I made you my temple, my mural, my sky. And now I'm begging for the footnotes in the story of your life. You assume I'm fine, but what would you do if I break free and leave us in ruins? Now, if you know what happens in the first few chapters of ACOMAF, and I just felt like Tolerate It, and the first 5 chapters, maybe even 10 of ACOMAF, is Tolerate It themed. Then I end up going through literally the rest of this book, listening to Folklore, Evermore, and Red. If I were to say that the top 5 Taylor Swift songs that describe Akamath, it would have to be Tolerated from Folklore. Oh my god, it's from Evermore. Girl, bye. I knew something was wrong with me. If I were to put the top 5 Taylor Swift songs that go very well with Akamath, it has to be Tolerated from Evermore, Treacherous from Red, My Tears Ricochet from Folklore, Exile from Folklore, and Starlight from Red. This book it radiates Red, Folklore, and Evermore energy. But other than that, beautiful. So up next, we have the second thickest, A Court of Wings and Ruin. Did I mention that when I was 3/4 done with the first book, I had already ordered Akamath and Akawar to be shipped the next day so that I could continue reading. I'm telling you, I was so obsessed with this series, I could not put it down. I actually wrote down the times that I actually started and ended these books. With Akawar, I started April 14th, 2023, 2:10 p.m. and ended April 16th, 2023, 4:50 a.m. And look at all them tabs. It looks really cute. And it's the same thing as how I read Akamath. At the end of chapter 9, right before chapter 10, I wrote down on a sticky note the surprise songs that she did. And so it says April 14th, 2023, song number 1, The Great War with Aaron Dessner. And then song number 2, You're on Your Own Kid. If 2023 Nathalie would have found out that she has played You're on Your Own Kid 9 times during tour, that is insane. At this point, Taylor Swift needs to put it on the set list. Like I mentioned, Akawar was just packed with fantasy, action, and the plot was just so good. There were times where I feel like I was reading it too fast, given the fact that I finished it in like two days. So much of the plot I actually did forget, but it's okay. But as soon as I finished Akawar, I started reading A Court of Frost and Starlight. Now, A Court of Frost and Starlight was a breath of fresh air, especially after the events that unfolded during book 3. This is a very easy read, and I ended up finishing it in like 6 hours. Like, I'm telling you, I am crazy when it came to ACOTAR. I still am. Like, mentally, I am still in Valaris. Here's a proof. I started reading Akafat April 16th, 2023, 4:52 a.m. and I finished 11:48 a.m. same day. Finally, we have A Court of Silver Flames. Now, this is not as tabbed as my other books, especially because I just ended up being lazy and I ended up finding a PDF file and read it on my iPad. It was more convenient instead of carrying this everywhere with me. Wow, I hated Nesta so much, especially because it's very rare to have an NE name. Her name is Nesta. My name is Nathalie. There were so many similarities I found between Nesta and I, and that's what made me hate her even more, because I'm a self-loathing idiot. But that all changed in this book, because you start off hating her so much, and then I personally ended up liking her. I ended up tolerating Nesta. I love that she has her own found family, especially with the Valkyries. Cassian. I love Cassian so much. It hurt. What else can I say about Akasif? Like, the romance was good. Really good. And I did end up crying a lot. Especially when Nesta reaches a point where she can no longer hold back her grief. I genuinely cried during that part. It's just a turning point in how her character has developed so much since the start of the series to this book. And I absolutely love it for the character development that Nesta went through. However, the reason I only tolerate her instead of love her is because that did not excuse her actions from letting her younger sister save the family. Like, girl, you couldn't have helped? Were you not capable of working around the house or finding a job or doing something to help your family out and survive? But Akasif, wow, I cannot wait for the next book. And I know Sarah J. Maas is currently writing the next ACOTAR book. People are saying it's Azriel's book. We'll see. But yeah, this is my ACOTAR books. my back hurts. Next up we have Crescent City. So I only have Crescent City books 2 and 3 as a physical copy. I originally read House of Earth and Blood and Sky and Breath as a PDF file. The first book was really hard to get through, but then it's always the last 100 pages in a Sarah J Maas novel that ends up tying everything. I love Crescent City so much, but the first book is always really hard to get through. You're introduced to new characters, to new political systems, and it's just very different compared to ACOTAR. And so in my collection, I have House of Sky and Breath with Hunt Athalar as the front cover. I actually rushed through this book because I read a spoiler online, and I hate the fact that I read that spoiler, or I encountered that spoiler, because it urged me to rush through everything with the second book. But at the same time, it made the wait worth it for House of Flame and Shadow. Now, out of all of the books I own, House of Flame and Shadow is the prettiest book I own to this day. So it has like gold embellishments in the front, very shiny, it's very pretty. But when you open the inside, look at the art. Like, the art is amazing. This makes me appreciate this book so much even more because of the art. And oh my god, the plot. Oh my god, the plot. Some of you have not read Crescent City, and that is totally okay. This book was absolutely worth the wait. I'm pretty sure I'm one of the people who got their copy last. I literally waited by the front door waiting for UPS just so that I know this copy would be safe and sound in my hands. I think it arrived around 8:15 p.m. I started reading this book January 30th, 8:22 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then I finished roughly 24 hours later. So by 8 a.m.
Girl, you actually finished around 8 p.m. January 31.
And I needed to know what happened, especially after the ending of book number 2. I highly recommend reading Crescent City by Sarah J Maas as well. However, one thing I do regret was not reading Throne of Glass before Crescent City. I mean, you can read the books however you want. In my opinion, I would have enjoyed reading the books more if I went ACOTAR, Throne of Glass, Crescent City. But now I'm still reading Throne of Glass, which is the next series in this bookshelf. So as a disclaimer, it actually took me a really long time to start reading the Throne of Glass books, and I am still reading the Throne of Glass books to this day because I am scared that once it's over, I'm never gonna love reading again. I'm just kidding. I'm scared that I'm never gonna find a book worthy of my love, just like these books or just any Sarah J Maas book ever. And so with Throne of Glass, I started this book July 7th, 2023, 11:55 p.m. almost a year ago, and I finished 5 days later on July 12th, 11:36 p.m. Here's the proof. Throne of Glass, it was not as easy for me to fall in love with Throne of Glass, especially when it came to this book. Crown of Midnight was so hard for me to get through, and I don't know why. I think it was just like a mental block when it came to reading this book. And so I remember I had to restart it at least twice, but I started it. So I started it immediately after I finished Throne of Glass. But I don't, like, can you see that? So I started July 12th, 11:40 p.m. because I was on a roll. It's SJM. You finish one book, you pick up the net when it comes to Sarah J Maas. But it took me 4 months to finish it. I was 19 years old when I started reading Throne of Glass. I finished reading when I was 20 years old. And November 11th, 2023, on my flight from Cancun to Vegas, I feel so stupid for not finishing this book as quickly as I should have because of the ending. Oh my goodness. I was an idiot for that. And you'd think I'd learned my lesson. But no, it seems like there's a pattern with the Throne of Glass book. The more I prolong reading it, the more I put it off to the side. When I actually do come around to read it, I end up loving it so much. That is the perfect segue to Heir of Fire. I read Heir of Fire as a physical book and on my Kindle. I did not tab any of it. I got lazy. When I tell you Heir of Fire changed everything for me in the Throne of Glass world. The way it was so angsty, and we start to see Selena Sardothian become who she really is. It was perfect. This was the perfect build-up from Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight, and I absolutely love the central idea of accepting who you are, knowing that there is nothing you can do to change the past, but it is only something that will guide you to become a stronger version of yourself. And I absolutely love that in Heir of Fire. And Rowan Whitethorn. I love the fact that we met Rowan in this book, because going into Throne of Glass, I kept hearing Rowan, Rowan, Rowan. Rowan is better than Rhys. Rowan is better than Hunt. So I was like, okay, let's see what this book is about. And Rowan is that guy. He is that guy. Like, it's just perfect. And as you may notice from my stack of books, I actually don't have 2 books, and that is Assassin's Blade and Queen of Shadows. Queen of Shadows is literally my favorite book in the series so far. And oh my god, absolutely loved it. And so I will be buying a physical copy of that book very, very soon. Trust, I shall have it in my collection, as well as the Assassin's Blade. This brings me to where I am right now in Throne of Glass. I am tandem reading Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. I know that these 2 books happen on separate continents, so there is also a guide that does the tandem read on like how you can do the tandem read. I personally switch every 5 chapters. 10 chapters is the 5 chapters. Just because I love Empire of Storms so much more than I love Tower of Dawn so far. But I really should follow that tandem guide. I'm so excited as to what these 2 books will unfold, because I already know some minor spoilers, because at this point I can't avoid the spoilers any longer, just because I've been putting off this read so much, and that's on me, fam. But then hopefully I get to read Kingdom of Ash this year. Shout out to my friend Mary. This is for you, because she and I bonded over ACOTAR, Throne of Glass so much. We're both reading each other's favorite series. So I look forward to reading Kingdom of Ash. I know it's one of the saddest books. Or like, I don't know, I heard it's devastating. That scares me. But yeah, that is my Sarah J. Maas collection. On to the next shelf. This is actually filled with a bunch of new books that I bought from Barnes & Noble. So first up we have Sith. Then we have Shatter Me. And then we have Cinder. So Sith and Shatter Me, I've heard a lot of great reviews about on Book Talk as well as on Amazon. Then we have Cinder. Cinder has a special place in my heart, because I remember reading Cinder back in 5th or 6th grade. I had just became an XOL, and so the main guy in Cinder, his name is Prince Kaito, and I love Kai so much from EXO. Kai from EXO, Kim Jong-in. So it was natural that I fan casted Kai as Prince Kaito, and so I ended up loving Cinder so much more because of it. But I also really appreciated this fresh and futuristic take on the Cinderella retelling. And can we talk about the art? The art is just so beautiful. The second I saw this in Barnes & Noble's, I knew I had to get it. So up next we have my Jane Austen signature classic. Yeah, so we got my Jane Austen signature classic novels. So first up we have Emma, and I love how the back says some famous quotes. So for Emma, it's I always deserve the best treatment, because I never put up with any other. So next up we have Pride and Prejudice. And for Pride and Prejudice, it says, it is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. I love the 2005 Pride and Prejudice film so much with Keira Knightley. The cinematography was amazing. It's just so beautiful, and it makes me want to live in the countryside of England. But I know that would be very humid, and I don't know if I would like that very much. And then finally we have Persuasion. The back of this book is my favorite. You pierce my soul. I am half agony, half hope. I have watched the Persuasion film adaptation on Netflix so many times and this one is with Dakota Johnson. I absolutely love Persuasion so much. because of the angst, the second chance romance trope. Oh, it's so beautiful. Or I've only watched the movies for at least these 3 Jane Austen novels. So I look forward to reading these books. This next book is the only book I have of the entire series so far, Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. I have already finished watching season 3 and I have so many thoughts as someone who loved the book dearly. There were aspects where the season did follow closely with the book, but because there is a new showrunner who ruined everything, I went through the 5 stages of grief and just ended up accepting the fact that season 3 did not meet my expectations, but I still ended up loving it because of Nicola and Luke. I'm so exhausted. This is why I will forever be a book girly when it comes to Bridgerton, or at least Pauline's story. I will always love Pauline's story as a book more than the series itself. But other than that, I still very much enjoyed season 3. The wait was worth it, but there was just some tiny growing pains per se. But I will forever love this book. Now the last book, or should I say the last book, that are so important in this pile, it has to be The Rain in España and Save Sky's Archer, which is still very much packaged. If I have to save anything from my book collection, it would have to be these 2 books, because they are very hard for me to find, because the only reason I have them is I bought them in the Philippines thanks to my Ate Kaming, who bought it from Shopee, got it shipped from Manila to Bacolod City so I could have my own copy of one of my favorite Wattpad series of all time. And the coolest part about this is that it's in Tagalog and in English. This is how I'm able to stay connected to my culture and my language, and that is through reading in Filipino. I first discovered The Rain in España back in August 2022, my very first trip solo to the Philippines after 5 years of not visiting my home country. And it was so magical because it was at a time where the university series was actually ending, and I had just been introduced to it. Like, I just found it on TikTok and I just went with it, and I'm so happy that I went with it because it ended up becoming one of my favorite series of all time. The fact that it was Tagalog and English, I absolutely loved that because I was able to practice my reading skills, at least in Filipino. Even though my mother tongue is actually Cebuano, I still had a lot of fun reading and experiencing the university series. It actually took me 2 years to get my hands on this book, and it was all on Shopee. I love the fact that there's a bookmark too. Like, this is so cute, especially since this is Luca. 10 years, still you. Save Sky's Archer was another book that I actually ended up fan casting Kai again. It's Kim Jong-in, what can I say? And this one is so good, but my favorite book from the university series will always be Chasing in the Wild. And I'm so sad that I cannot get my hands on a copy because people were selling it on Shopee for 2,000 pesos. $40? Are you kidding me? Choose my top 3 books of the university series. It has to be in order: Chasing in the Wild, Avenues of the Diamond, and then The Rain in España. Maybe next time, who knows, maybe I'll go home in 2 years and actually get my hand on a copy of Chasing in the Wild and Avenues of the Diamond. If there are 3 things I would grab if my room was burning, it's these 2 books and my Kindle. That's it. My Kindle and my 2 books. We are all good. And my dog. Okay, I'm recording this in 2 parts because I'm so tired. It is currently 1:10 a.m. But before I go, I just wanted to show you my really cool Bridgerton fan that I got from Target for $10. Okay, that's it. I'll see you in the morning. Hey guys, it's me Nathalie and I'm back with part 2. For this part, I will be going over the books that I have on my diagonal shelves. I don't even know if it's called diagonal, but this shelf, I specifically put my K-pop albums and a mix of my books that do not fit in my bookshelf. And honestly, if I have to make more room for a new bookshelf, that just means spending more money. And I spent I spent. And that's just something that's not in the budget right now. Watch, in the future, I'm probably gonna buy a bookshelf too, but we'll see if that actually comes true within the next 3 months or so. In the first 2 tiers of my diagonal bookshelf, I have all of my EXO or Kai related albums. So first up is my very first EXO album. My very first EXO album is Coco Bop that my mom got for me as a gift from New York. Yeah, 2017. In 2017, I did not know how to order K-pop albums, and so luckily my mom found a K-pop store in New York, and I just asked, hey, just buy me a K-pop album that's EXO K-pop album only, and that's what she did. Then the next up, I got this for my 15th birthday, Don't Mess Up My Tempo EXO, and this one was special because Lay made an appearance. This was 2021, Don't Mess Up My Tempo. I pre-ordered all 3 versions and it took 3 months to get. It was released in June 2021. I want to say it was when who left? Yes, it was right before Chanyeol enlisted, and so I knew like I had to get I knew I had to get these albums regardless because it's really special. And then Lay also made an appearance again, and so I really appreciated that. It was like a special album for the fans before most of the members went to enlist in the military. And then finally, my prized possessions. My Kai albums. Oh my god. When I tell you how photogenic Kim Jong-in is, like, it is crazy. Like, look at how beautiful the Peaches album is. Like, this is a masterpiece. This is just, look at that. Like, look at him, bro. And there goes my CD. And the Peaches album I absolutely love. I don't have a copy of the album, his first album, but I do have Peaches version 1 and 2. And look, this version of Peaches is just so beautiful. Like, look at that. Look at that. Look. There goes my CD again. And then, yeah, so I have Mr. Rover. This has to be my favorite picture in this book. But I also have the mini version. Looks like this. And you can pull it out. And it comes in like 4 different sets. And absolutely cherish this, especially because he's on, yeah. As of right now, Kai is fulfilling his mandatory military service as a social service worker, and he will be discharged next year in 2025. I need to find his first album just so that I can complete my collection with his albums. It's Mr. Rover. So the first books that I have in this bookshelf, so I got Twisted Love by Anna Huang. I genuinely think this is one of the first romance novels that I really ended up liking a lot because it had the angst that I was looking for. For me, a 5-star read is a book that makes me cry, a book that is filled with tension, a book that is filled with a book that is filled with romance, yes, but also that tension, that drama, that I need the guy to grovel at his feet for the female lead. And I think Anna Huang does a phenomenal job with Alex Volkov. Oh my gosh, Alex Volkov, the man that you are. As for the Twisted series, Twisted Love is the only one that I have as a physical copy because I ended up reading book 2 on my iPad and my phone, and oh my gosh, the way I have not moved on from Reese Larson. Reese Larson, the man that you are. If I had to choose between Alex, Reese, Josh, and Christian Harper, it's Reese Larson all the way. Twisted Games has this hold on me that I cannot get over. The next book that we have is actually my copy of It's Not Summer Without You by Jenny Han. I genuinely love this series so much, and I actually finished The Summer I Turned Pretty reading all of the books, and I remember finishing this last summer, especially since season 2 was like a very pivotal book slash season in the series. And so the second book was really, really interesting. I don't know, I like the drama between like Belly having to choose between Jeremiah and Conrad. I obviously know what happens in the end. I still look forward to season 3, and I'm kind of bummed out that it's not being released until next summer, but it's okay. I mean, are you Team Conrad or Team Jeremiah? So up next, we have 3 books that are still in my TBR list. The first up, we got The Fine Print by Lauren Asher, which is a billionaire romance series, I believe. I've heard good things about this series, so I look forward to reading The Fine Print. However, it's just taken me so long to actually get started. Next up, we have Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I love Ali Hazelwood so much, but I just haven't gotten around to reading Love Theoretically because, like I mentioned, I'm still reading the Throne of Glass books. The tandem read is no joke. I will read this in between the tandem read. I absolutely loved Love Hypothesis. Love Hypothesis was a great read for me. I read it in the summer of 2022, and the fact that it was a Raylo fanfic, crazy. I look forward to reading Love Theoretically one of these days. And then finally we have From a Paris Balcony by Ella Carey. I got this for Christmas from my mom, so shout out to my mom. Okay, the next book I have in my bookshelf is Iron Flame. I absolutely love the Empyrean series so much, and this copy is really special to me because I got this as a birthday gift from my boyfriend. He pre-ordered it and had it delivered the same day it was released. I believe it was November 7th, and I was actually out of town when it arrived. Chris actually ended up reading the first chapter to me via FaceTime. So I didn't get to unbox it, which is totally fine in this case. I was in Cancun at that point, and I wouldn't be home for like 4 more days. It's funny because there was a lot of chaos that happened after this book was released, especially to the people who pre-ordered it, because there was a lot of misprints and there was manufacturing issues regarding how Iron Flame was being produced. But look at that. I love that the edges are sprayed and you can't really tell, but I have a lot of tabs. I thought I was out of the woods that my copy had no mistakes. And the way I read hardcovers is I take the cover out. I don't know what this is called, but I take the cover out. And so when I was reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, there's nothing. I'm so lucky, like I didn't get one of the misprints, or there's nothing wrong with my physical copy. And then the entire time I was just looking at the spine and I was like, fourth wing. I was definitely not out of the woods. This book is Iron Flame, but with a fourth wing cover. But overall, I cried reading this book so many times, especially towards the end. And I am looking forward to Onyx Storm, which will be released next year. Hi friends, it's Editing Nathalie. I already pre-ordered the special edition from Barnes & Noble. As of today, fourth wing. Yeah. And imagine if I buy the fourth wing hardcover and it says Iron Flame on the side. That would be funny. So next up, we have my 3 copies of Harry Potter. This is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Then we have Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And then finally, my copy of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. When it came to buying these books, I actually got really lucky and I got them from Goodwill. And they were really cheap. I got these for around less than $5. Growing up with Harry Potter is really magical. I remember watching my cousins watch the movies at our grandparents' house in Escalante City in the Philippines. It was very easy for me to like try and like what they liked. And at the time when I was like 4 or 5, 6 years old, it was Harry Potter for them. And so naturally I grew up loving Harry Potter a lot. But in terms of my original Harry Potter books, I only have the first 3. I mean, I grew up with Harry Potter. It's a it plays a huge part in my life, both as a young person but now as an adult. I'm proudly in House Slytherin, and I wouldn't want it any other way. At one point, I really wanted to be in Gryffindor, but like, who cares about that? My boyfriend went to Universal Studios in California. Yeah, so he ended up buying me magnetic bookmarks that were Slytherin themed and a Slytherin cup, which I will insert here. Other than that, I watch it at least once a month. Yeah, I remember being in elementary school, reading the Harry Potter books, and just having a grand old time. I would always be the one checking it out from the library when I was in the 4th and 5th grade. Next up, we have 3 books that I was gifted by my friend Sophia. So first up, we have In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle. I heard good things about In 5 Years, so this is definitely something I want to read in the future. Next up, we have We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. I've definitely seen this all over Book Talk, so I look forward to checking it out sometime this year. And then finally, They Both Die in the End. I was already spoiled the ending based on the title. I'm just kidding. I read the plot on Wikipedia a few years ago, and I have a feeling I know how it ends, but I've just never really read the book because they both die at the end. Literally, allegedly, but literally. But it's a really interesting and unique story from what I've heard. Next up, and
I missed something. Can you say it again?
Jesus Christ. Finally, we have...
Here's what I found on Wikipedia. Jesus, also referred to as Jesus of Nazareth or Jesus Christ.
Amen. She is scary. Anyways, finally we have books that I got from Goodwill as well. Goodwill has a really good selection of books, and I like the fact that you get to give these books a second chance before they are forgotten or thrown away completely. So first up, we have my Great Illustrated Classics copy of Sleeping Beauty and Other Stories. Again, I haven't read this, even though I should, but I remember when I first immigrated to America, my mom bought me Great Illustrated Classic books like these, like hardcover, yellow pages, and it was just like the classic books and literature. And so I don't know where those original copies are, but I saw this and I was reminded about that time, and I decided to buy them. So I have Sleeping Beauty and Other Stories, Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, which I absolutely love. The movie with Timothée Chalamet. Absolutely love the plot of Little Women, and it's very interesting that I found the Great Illustrated Classics version of this book because I've been wanting to read it for many years. And so I love how, like, if you open it, like, literally each page has an illustration, and I thought that's so cool. It's the same thing with these books for Great Illustrated Classics, and so I genuinely love that. And then we have Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. I grew up loving horses so much. I really wanted a horse. And then finally, this is one of my favorite like Goodwill finds as well, just because it's so rare. So I studied French since the age of 12. J'étudie français depuis quand je ne sais pas je ne sais pas parler en français maintenant, mais j'étudiais le français au lycée et à l'université. Donc, je veux une copie de Les Aventures de Monsieur Bois à Caca. C'est un livre de Rick and Morty. And I thought that was so funny because, like, this was just tucked in a little corner of the Goodwill books, and it nearly took me out. And so I immediately bought it. It's a graphic novel. And then, let me read the first page. Et Morty, tu te souviens de trucs qu'on a fait, Morty? Ah ouais, Rick. Rien que toi et moi, Morty. Les aventures de Rick et Morty. Rick et Morty pour toujours.
Ok, c'est bon, on a compris. Vous êtes Lord. Les aventures de Monsieur... Les aventures de Monsieur Bois à caca. Rick est morti pour toujours et à jamais. Soupir. Grand-père Rick est toujours morti dans ses aventures. Pourquoi pas moi? Je peux assurer aussi. Oui, Sommer, bien sûr que tu peux.
De la tyrannie, les tendances sanglantes et lavées, les tendances sanglantes et lavées. Entendez-vous dans le campagne murgir ces féroces soldats? Ils viennent jusqu'au dans nos bras, égorger nos filles, nos compagnes. Aux armes citoyens.
Sommer, je suis la... Yeah, I haven't practiced French formally in a few months, so I'm a little bit rusty, but this is really special just because it's my only French book. I'm losing my French very quickly, so I need to stock up on French children books. Specifically, Le Petit Prince. I know that's a classic when it comes to like starting to learn the French language.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you want more, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below what other videos I should do in the near future. And I hope you read something. Please read something. Being literate is great.